Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at, the future of transportation, or at least what some people thought was going to be the future.
Robotaxis.
Robotaxis, yeah.
Exactly.
And, specifically, we're going to be talking about this article from Fortune magazine. It's called Why Tesla is the Last U.S. Automaker Left in the Robotaxi Race.
Hmm.
And, I mean, it's a pretty interesting headline, right? Like, remember just a few years ago, it felt like every car company, every tech company was like, robo-taxis, that's it. That's the future. We're all in.
Oh, yeah. Huge investments. So much hype. Everyone from like Google to Uber, traditional car companies, startups you've never even heard of. We're all like jumping on this bandwagon.
Exactly. And now, this article is kind of pointing out, it feels like that party's kind of over, at least here in the U.S.
It really does, especially after what happened with GM and their cruise operation. Remember them?
Oh, yeah.
All over the news. They were going to be the first, the biggest, the best.
And then, boom, just like that, GM pulls the plug.
Yeah, it was a pretty sudden and dramatic move. It kind of makes you step back and wonder, okay, what's the real story here? Is Tesla the only one who sees something everyone else missed? Or are they about to drive off a cliff all by themselves?
Right, right. And this article, it kind of lays out the landscape, right? It says, and I quote, every other U.S. automaker has essentially given up on robo-taxis.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold statement, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I guess the first question is why? Like, why are all these companies hitting the brakes so hard?
I mean, I think there are a few big reasons. Like, first, the technology itself is just, well, it's really hard. You're basically trying to make a car that can think for itself, make decisions in like a split second in an environment that is constantly changing. I mean, think about all the crazy stuff that can happen on the road.
Oh, yeah, pedestrians,
Ish.
weather, like you said, construction.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about, recognizing those things. It's about predicting what they're going to do, reacting in a safe and, in legal way.
Oh, and don't forget other drivers, like the human ones,
Yeah.
who aren't always predictable.
Oh, especially not, I mean, humans are probably the biggest wild card in this whole equation.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got the tech challenges, but then you've also got all the regulations.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. Every city, every state, every country, they kind of have their own rules about this stuff. And it's, well, it's a mess.
It is. It makes it really hard to actually deploy these things on a large scale.
Right. You can't just like build one robotaxi and then send it everywhere. It has to be customized and tested for each specific area. And that just takes, time and money.
Oh, and then the other thing that nobody really wants to talk about, public perception.
Yeah, even if you could solve all the technical problems and the regulatory stuff, you still have to convince people that these things are safe.
Right. And any accident, even if it's not the robotaxi's fault, it just blows up in the news and people get scared.
Totally. It erodes trust, makes everyone question the whole idea. It's a tough battle, and honestly, I think a lot of companies are just realizing it's maybe a battle they can't win right now.
Yeah, okay. So we've got all these challenges and everyone's dropping out. But then you have Tesla,
The outlier.
the outlier, yeah. Like standing there kind of like, bring it on. We got this.
Right. And the article, it kind of points to this idea that maybe Tesla's advantage is that they're a pure play automaker.
What does that even mean?
So basically, it means that their whole business, everything they do, is focused on making electric vehicles. They don't have all these other distractions like, gas powered cars or like financing arms or whatever. They're laser focused on EVs.
Okay, so they're not like trying to keep one foot in the past and one foot in the future.
Right, exactly. And that focus, it could give them a couple of advantages. Like, one, they're not spreading their resources thin. They can really put all their energy and money into solving the problems of autonomous driving.
I guess that makes sense. And also, their whole brand is kind of built on being like cutting edge tech forward.
Oh, for sure. Their customers, they expect that. They're excited about it.
Right. So like pushing the boundaries on robotaxis,
Yeah.
it kind of fits their image.
Totally.
Okay. So maybe that explains part of it. But, honestly, I'm still a little skeptical. Like if the challenges are as big as you said, wouldn't even a focused company like Tesla be feeling, some pressure?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure they are. But here's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, tell me.
So we've been talking about the US, right?
Yeah.
But what about the rest of the world? Like, the article kind of hints at this, but are there other companies, maybe in Europe or Asia, that are still, going full speed ahead with robotaxis?
Ooh, that's a great point. Like,
Yeah.
is this just an American thing or is it a global trend?
Right. And it turns out there are some big players out there that are still like all in on this.
Really? Give me some names.
Okay, so for example, in China, you have Baidu.
Baidu, yeah. The search engine giant.
Exactly. They've been investing heavily in self-driving tech for years now, and they're actually like running robo-taxi services in some cities already.
Wow, okay. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Also, Waymo.
Waymo, the Google spinoff.
Right. They've been doing this, like, forever. They're seen as one of the leaders in the field.
They are, and they're taking like a totally different approach than Tesla, right?
Yeah, much more focused on detailed mapping. Like, they're
Yeah.
creating these super precise 3D maps of the areas where they operate.
So it's almost like there are all these different experiments happening at the same time.
It is, yeah, and it's like nobody really knows which one is going to win or even if any of them will. It's kind of like watching like a race where everyone's taking a different route.
Exactly. And we're all just like on the sidelines watching to see who gets there first or if anyone even finishes.
That's a great analogy.
Mm.
So I guess that brings us back to the question that you posed earlier. Like, if you were running a car company right now, knowing what we know, would you bet on robotaxis?
Man, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it would be a really tough call. I mean, on the one hand, the potential reward is huge GE.
Oh yeah, if you could crack this, it would change everything.
Right, like transportation, logistics, urban planning, like it would have ripple effects across so many industries.
Imagine, like, no more traffic jams.
Yeah, cleaner cities.
Like, people could live further out from work.
Exactly, like the possibilities are kind of endless. But on the other hand, the risks are, well, they're huge too.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about this whole time. The technology, the regulations, the public opinion, it's a lot to overcome.
It is. And, you could pour billions into this and still end up with nothing.
Right, like GM did.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it would be a gamble for sure.
It really would be. Okay, so I think we've learned a lot here. Like, Tesla's the last one standing in the U.S., but the global picture is way more complicated.
It is, yeah.
Different companies, different approaches, different levels of success. So what's the takeaway for our listeners? Like, what should they be thinking about as they watch this all unfold?
I think the most important thing to remember is that even if robotaxi, like fully autonomous robotaxis, aren't quite ready yet, the technology that's being developed, it's not going to just disappear.
Right, it's going somewhere.
It is. Like all the advances in AI, in sensors, in real-time data processing, all of that stuff, it's going to find its way into other areas of our lives.
Ooh, like what? Give me some examples.
Well, I mean, think about like self-driving features in regular cars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like lane assist, adaptive cruise control.
Exactly. Those are getting more sophisticated all the time. Or like think about logistics like delivery robots, self-driving trucks.
Yeah, that's already starting to happen.
Right. And
Yeah.
then there's, applications we haven't even thought of yet. Like
Yeah.
imagine medical robots that can perform surgery or deliver medications.
Whoa, that's kind of sci-fi.
It is. But it's not as far off as you might think. So, yeah, even if Tesla ends up being wrong about like the timeline for robotaxis, the journey itself, it's pushing the boundaries of technology, and that's going to have a big impact on all of us.
That's a great point to end on. Like, even if robotaxis aren't right around the corner, the innovations, they're going to ripple out into the world in all sorts of ways.
Exactly.
That's something to keep an eye on. So thanks to everyone for diving deep with us today.
Yep. See you next time.
We'll see you next time.